In the heart of Africa, long before modern cities rose from the red soil and the hum of motorbikes filled the markets, waist beads were more than ornaments. They were stories whispered in colors, secrets hidden in tiny glass, and power bound with string. Women wore them proudly, yet cautiously, because while waist beads marked beauty and womanhood, they also carried a weight few dared to speak of openly. It began in the village of Oran, a place surrounded by thick forests where the trees breathed with old spirits. In Oran, every girl was given her first waist beads at the age of 12. The beads were carefully chosen by her mother or grandmother, not just for beauty but for the symbols they carried. Red for fertility, blue for protection, green for prosperity. Yet sometimes, among those innocent strands, there would be a darker set, black beads said to guard against curses, or white beads said to bind the favor of ancestral spirits. Nia, a girl whose laughter could light up the darkest night, received her waist beads one rainy evening as the village drummers played. Her grandmother tied them gently around her waist, whispering words like a blessing folded inside a warning. These beads are your crown unseen. They will guard you, they will warn you, and they will remind the world that you are not ordinary. But never misuse them, child. For beads remember. Nia did not fully understand, but a shiver danced along her spine as the beads settled against her skin. She thought it was only the rain. She did not know that from that night forward, her life would entangle with the oldest stories the forest kept. In Oran, not all women wore beads for beauty alone. Some tied them to trap lovers, binding men's spirits so they could not leave. Others soaked them in oils mixed with herbs, giving them the power to draw favor, or to cut it away. There were whispers of beads crafted by hands that worked more with shadows than with light, beads that drained the strength of a man or soured the health of a rival woman, until her gait slowed, and her voice dulled. Mothers still gifted beads, but always with caution. Men admired them, but never too boldly, for they feared becoming ensnared. The elders said beads could carry praise or poison, and the only true judge of their path was the intention knotted into the string. Nia's closest friend, Amma, learned the cost of careless desire. As children they ran together through cassava fields, trading riddles and shared mangoes. As they grew older, men noticed Nia first. Her laughter pulled eyes the way a drum pulls dancers. Amma loved her friend, and envied her in equal measure. One market day, a wandering trader set up a small mat by the well. She was an old woman with cloudy eyes, and a back bent like a question mark. The beads she sold caught the light with an edge too sharp for comfort. People walked past, some curious, most wary. Amma did not walk past. She asked for a strand that would make the world bow at her feet. The trader smiled without warmth, and pressed into her palm a string that felt warmer than the day deserved. Tie these, and your name will sit in many mouths, but remember that a river that carries you forward can also carry you away. Amma paid in cowries, tied the beads that evening, and began to glow with an attention that arrived too quickly to be natural. Gifts filled her hut. The chief's son lingered. Songs followed her steps, but sleep fled. Her body hollowed. In dreams, unseen fingers tugged at her waist, whispering in a language she did not speak. One night, Amma stumbled into Nia's hut. Shaking, she lifted her cloth and begged for help. The beads pulsed like tiny hearts, a faint light beating under the skin. Nia reached forward, and felt heat as if a coal nested there. Her grandmother came, placed one careful finger on the knot, and then drew her hand back with a hiss. "These are not beads for the living," she said. "They were braided with debt, forged with hungry promises. Only the one who bound them can grant release, and even then they will ask a price." Amma wept until morning. Before the sun rose again, she was gone. Some said she ran into the forest to find the trader. Others said the beads had led her to a doorway only the cursed could see. For a long time, the village spoke of Amma in soft voices, as if sound might call her shadow back. Nia carried the loss like a stone under the tongue. Each market day she scanned the crowd, searching for the bent old trader. Days turned to moons. The drums played for harvest. The dry season arrived with dust like flour in the air. On the first night of Harmattan, Nia saw the trader again, sitting by the well as if she had never left. Nia did not wait. She walked straight to the woman, and asked where her friend had gone. The trader lifted one brow as if amused and said, "A girl who ties what her heart cannot carry must learn to carry it, or untie the heart." Nia told her she would pay whatever price the forest wanted. The trader studied her face a long time, and then spoke. "Go to the Odu River at the new moon. Bring honey, white cloth, 7 cowries, and truth. The last item is the hardest to carry. If you bring pride instead, the river will throw you back." On the night the moon hid its face, Nia left the village in secret. Her grandmother knew. Elders know when steps are planned. She pressed a small calabash into Nia's hands with honey so thick it caught the starlight, and bound a white cloth around her shoulders. "Remember," she whispered. "Beads remember." The path to Odu River ran through forest so dense even the air felt woven. Owls sang, termites hummed. The river announced itself with a low voice pulsing under the ground. Nia set her offerings on a flat stone and spoke. She told the water what she wanted. She told it about Amma's laughter and the braided friendship they had shared. And she told a truth she had kept even from herself. Sometimes she had enjoyed being the bright one in their pair, the girl receiving looks and praise while Amma's smile thinned. The water rose like a listening ear. A path of light opened over the current, not for feet but for intention. Nia stepped in, and the cold ran up her bones. The other side of the river was not a place you would draw on a map. It was the place where stories live before anyone tells them. Trees carried faces in their bark. A moonless sky glowed with a light that had no source. Nia walked until she found a clearing where beads hung from branches like small constellations. Each strand hummed with a different note. A woman stood in the center, taller than any woman Nia had seen, her hair braided with golden thread, her eyes river dark. "You came with truth," the woman said. Nia nodded because words did not want to leave her mouth. "I am the one you seek, the weaver whose hands twist desire into form," the woman continued. "Some call me by many names, but you may call me Mother of Streams. I made the beads your friend tied, but I did not make the hunger that knotted them. Hunger made itself." Nia asked for Amma. The Mother of Streams knelt and took from the tree a strand that sang low and bitter. "This is your friend's debt. To break it you must give what was withheld when she tied it. 3 gifts will be asked. The first is a memory you love but can live without. The second is a fear you pretend not to carry. The third is a pledge you must keep even when no one is watching." Nia's throat tightened. The Mother of Streams touched Nia's shoulder, and the ground unfolded like cloth, showing a picture of 2 little girls racing beside cassava plants. Nia winning, Amma laughing, falling, then dusting herself off, always behind. "Choose," the woman said. Nia gave the memory of her first praise song, the one sung for her at a harvest dance when she realized she was the bright one, and Amma was the shadow. It hurt in a clean way, like a thorn drawn from the foot. The second gift pulled harder. "Name your fear," the woman said. Nia swallowed. She feared that beauty ruled the world more than kindness did, that beads mattered more than the heart they circled, that men would choose the glitter on the waist over the girl wearing it. She feared that if Amma returned the old envy would rise again, quiet but sharp. The Mother of Streams took the fear in 2 hands, and tied it into a knot, then set it on the ground where it melted into water. The third gift was a promise. If Amma returned, Nia would share her light like a calabash passed around a circle, and she would never again measure herself against her friend. The woman nodded and lifted her palm. The forest grew very quiet. From the edge of the clearing, a girl stepped out, eyes sunken, body thin. Amma looked at Nia as if waking from a long fever. The beads on her waist still glowed with a faint life, but their note had changed, less angry now, more tired. "You are not yet free," the Mother of Streams said to Amma. "Freedom has a ritual, and a path. You must return to the living side and cleanse what you bound." The woman reached for Nia's waist. "May I?" she asked, and Nia nodded. The Mother of Streams untied one of Nia's own strands, and retied it gently around Amma's waist above the cursed beads. "This will hold your spirit steady while the curse loosens. But remember, beads remember. They remember who ties them. For what? And with what heart? She pointed to the river. Go before dawn. Do not look back. If you look back, your steps will forget where forward is. Nia and Amma walked to the water's edge. Amma trembled. The river was cold as bone. Nia took her hand and together they waded into the current. The path opened, thin as a strand of hair, but true. When they reached the other bank, the world felt heavier in a good way. Birds called. The sky took on that purple just before dawn. In the distance, a cock crowed once and then twice. They crossed the field in silence, until the first roofs of Oran appeared like resting animals. Nia's grandmother waited at the gate, eyes clear, a small fire already lit. She had known to keep it burning through the night. Without a word, she guided them into the compound, and spread white cloth upon the ground. She mixed shea butter with crushed leaves, and spoke softly while her hands worked, calling on ancestors who loved the girls even before they were born. Amma knelt. The beads on her waist beat faster, light rising, shrinking, rising again like a creature trying to decide whether to hold on. The old woman dipped her fingers in the mixture, and drew a circle around Amma's waist without touching her skin. Then she placed 7 cowries beside the circle, and set a calabash of honey in the center. Truth is sweet, but it stings if you pour it into wounds too quickly, she murmured. We will pour slowly. The ritual lasted from first rooster to full sunrise. With each prayer, the knots loosened a breath. With each hymn, the beads dimmed. At the final word, Nia held Amma's hand and spoke the promise she had pledged by the river, not as a secret inside her chest, but out loud, for witnesses among the living and the dead. The thread gave way like hair cut clean. The cursed beads fell to the white cloth with a sound too soft for their power, like rain finding dust. The old woman gathered them with a leaf, never touching them, and carried them to the fire. Flames licked, then swallowed, then died down, as if full. Amma slept for a day and a night. When she woke, she ate slowly, smiled without effort, and watched sunlight paint lines on the wall as if seeing real light after long time inside a shadow. Village children kept to the doorway, curious and scared. The mothers brought food. The chief's son did not come. Perhaps he never cared for Amma beyond the glow of her danger, or perhaps he feared what men fear when they realize their delight could have turned into their undoing. It did not matter. Amma laughed for real again, not the thin laugh she had carried during her brief season of gifts. A week later, the women gathered for a cleansing at the river. Each brought her beads, not to destroy them, but to wash intention back into them. The river welcomed, as rivers do. A priestess from a town downstream came with songs older than anyone present. She spoke of beads as diaries worn in plain sight, lines of color that told the truth about a woman's season. Some strands were meant for a lover's eye, some for a healer's hand, some for a mother's prayer. The danger lay not in the beads, but in the hands that tied them, and the hunger fed into their knots. The priestess fastened new strands for Amma. Thin cords of blue and green, with 3 tiny shells that clicked when she walked, a small music that said life is still moving. Wear these for healing, she instructed. For a time do not accept gifts for your waist from any hand you do not know without asking your spirit first. Nia watched women of different ages lift their cloths a little to show each other new strands, shy and proud at once, and a new understanding entered her chest. The stories that warned men about women's beads were really stories that warned everyone about intention, about what happens when attention is valued more than peace, when beauty is treated like a weapon instead of a language. The tales her grandmother had told at night, of maidens binding trickster spirits, of jealous rivals tying beads laced with bitter herbs, of girls saved by rivers, were not meant to shame, they were meant to teach. In the months that followed, life settled. Fields were planted. Children learned new proverbs. The market filled with tomatoes stacked like small suns. Amma began to make beads herself, not for power, not for praise, but for storytelling. She sat by her doorway in the late afternoon, and strung tiny glass with patience, each strand built with a blessing inside it spoken under her breath. Women came because they said Amma's beads felt calm on the skin. Men came too, not to buy, but to hear her speak about what had happened, and to learn that not everything that glitters is a trap. Sometimes glitter is simply how a story catches the light. One afternoon, the bent old trader appeared again, shoulders straight now, hair less gray. She approached Amma's table, and ran one finger above the strands without touching them, the way one listens to a flute before the musician raises it. "You learned," she said. Amma looked up without fear. "I learned that hunger hides inside pretty things, when hands try to make pretty things do what patience should do." The trader smiled with her eyes more than her mouth. She placed on Amma's table a small pouch made of woven palm, and inside lay beads cut from seeds, nut and glass, the kind village grandmothers used long ago when glass was rare. "With these," the trader said, "you cannot tie greed, even if you try. They recoil from it. They only accept prayer, laughter, and lessons. Consider them a gift from a road that would have swallowed you if not for a friend who carried truth like water." She looked at Nia then, the look long and warm. "Beads, remember." The seasons turned. A festival came when the river swelled, and fish leapt as if sky called to them by name. Visitors arrived from other villages, bringing stories and drums. The priestess returned and asked the women to share one teaching each that they would pass to daughters and nieces. The circle grew wide. Some said, "Wear beads when you want to, not when you feel forced to be seen." Some said, "Let your beads mark your milestones, not your price." Nia spoke last. She said, "If you tie a promise into your beads, keep it. If you tie pain into them, untie it or it will grow sharp. If you are given beads with a hunger you didn't ask for, seek water and truth, both know how to loosen bad knots." Later, under a sky bright with stars, Nia and Amma sat by the river and counted blessings like fireflies. Amma said, she sometimes dreamed of the clearing where strands hung like constellations, each note different. Nia said, she sometimes felt the absence of the memory she had given away, like a missing tooth her tongue kept finding. But the empty place had taught her where her courage lived. They laughed and cried a little, because real relief carries both. The story spread beyond Orin, as stories do when they are useful. Some told it as a warning to men who believed a woman's waist could be conquered by clever words. Some told it as a caution to girls tempted to tie shortcuts around their bodies. Some told it as a hymn to friendship that crossed a border without fear. Every telling added a small detail, a new color, another verse. The core remained. Beads remember, rivers listen. Truth opens doors that pride cannot find. Years later, when Nia tied beads around her own daughter's waist for the first time, she chose colors the way a farmer chooses seed before the rains. She tied with laughter and with a small prayer that had no fear inside it. Her daughter looked up with eyes as bright as on the day she woke. "What do they do, Mama?" the little one asked. Nia stroked her child's hair. "They remind you of what you already are. They do not give you power, they help you carry the power you were born with without spilling it." Amma's craft became a school. Young women came to learn not only how to string but why to string. They learned to ask questions before accepting a gift, to listen where a bead was born and who had touched it. They kept a bowl of water by the door. Anyone who arrived frantic placed their hands over that bowl until the water took the heat and made it cooler. A thin boy who carved calabashes came to sell his work and stayed to learn how to tie knots that hold but do not choke. The old trader visited sometimes and always left a proverb on the table as payment. One day she brought a story about a tortoise who believed his wife's beads could make him a chief. He stole them, tied them around his own shell, and announced himself in the square. The beads slid off and turned into pebbles under his feet. The people laughed, then forgave him because the pebbles kept time to the drum, and everyone likes a dance when the sun is not yet too hot. Not every day was peaceful. A merchant came with a chest of bright glass that attracted flies in the shade. He told young women they needed his beads to be chosen for love. The girls looked at each other, then at Amma, then back at the merchant. One asked, chosen by whom? Another asked, chosen for what? The merchant only had answers about men's eyes, none about women's sleep. He left with a chest still heavy. The girls strung their own strands that evening, and the village boys realized too late that charm sold by strangers has a short life. When the elders of Oran prepared to step down and name younger leaders, they asked Nia to speak about the river, and Amma to speak about intention. The ceremony took place at twilight. Nia told the crowd that authority is like a strand around the waist. If tied with fear, it bites. If tied, it bites. If tied with arrogance, it slides and falls. If tied with service, it rests and never needs adjustment. Amma followed with a song that had no words anyone recognized, yet everyone understood it carried a blessing. As the last note faded, the sky broke open with rain that was not expected until morning. People ran, laughing, to find shelter. Some did not run, choosing to be washed in place. On the night before the next new moon, Nia visited the river alone and thanked the mother of streams with honey poured slow as patience. She did not ask for anything. She just stood on the bank and listened to the long breath that teaches humans how to breathe when life tightens. A fish jumped. Somewhere behind her, a child called for a mother. Far away a drum spoke to a farther drum. In that moment, Nia understood a simple thing that people forget when the market noise grows too loud. A string holds beads together, but the space between beads gives the waist room to move. In life, the knot matters, and the space matters. Hold well, leave room. When she turned to go home, she saw Amma waiting on the path with 2 cups carved from the same calabash. They shared water the way they had shared mangoes as children. They walked back to Oran shoulder to shoulder, their steps light, the night path bright enough without a moon to guide it. Beads at their waists clicked a small rhythm. It was not the sound of power, it was the sound of peace. If this story moved you, tap like to help it reach more people. Subscribe for more African tales woven with lessons. And tell your thoughts in the comments. Share your own bead stories or the wisdom you grew up with.